Hi there, welcome to Black Hole Sun Afterthought, where we talk about the podcast and anything I may have missed, any questions, rundown of the podcast. If you don't want to listen to the podcast, I always suggest you listen to the podcast corresponding to the episode first, so you can get an idea of what I'm talking about. And we also, in the description, you can find that. Also in the description, you can find the next episode for the next video. So thanks so much. If you can please subscribe, like, get those algorithms up, I would appreciate it. So without any more interruptions, let's talk about today's subject matter, which is the Loch Ness Monster. So the Loch Ness Monster, or Nessie as they call her, is apparently a long beast with a protruding neck who lives in Loch Ness in the Highlands. So she lives in Loch Ness in the Scottish Highlands. I don't know why it's so hard to say. For anybody who doesn't know, the word Loch means river, and Ness is the name of the river, so it's the River Ness. She's had so many sightings throughout the year. The first one was in the 1600s with Saint Columba, not to be mistaken for Columbo or Columbus. Saint Columba. He was in that land, and he was doing his saintly stuff, and he came upon some guys who were talking about this beast and that people were getting killed by this beast in the water. So he did his saintly thing and, you know, blessed it and sent it off. I mean, apparently it made it seem like he killed it, but he didn't do that. So I'm kind of like, okay, so interesting. Like, it shows up again in the 1800s as well, but when it really got popular was the 1930s. So in 1933, George Spicer was with his wife in the car by the Loch Ness, and he said that he saw this extraordinary creature walking on the street. Like, all this time I thought this is Loch Ness Monster only lived in the water, like he couldn't get out. But apparently, according to George Spicer and his wife, they saw the Loch Ness Monster, or Nessie, walking on the street, you know? There was a lot of sightings of her in the 30s. The one you probably know the most is the surgeon photo in 1934 with, it's the really blurry black and white, which ended up being a fake. So some guy who was, the Daily Mail's involved in this, so obviously I don't know what side I should, you know, what side is credible. So there was a guy who worked for the Daily Mail, and he was like bitter. Then he played a trick on them. He had his stepson create this fake Loch Ness with a little mini submarine and some clay. They took this blurry photo and they said it was the Loch Ness, but it was really like their own messed up way of like messing with the news. And I don't think anybody realized it until years later that it was fake. I think it was in the 90s, like 1995 or 96, they realized it was fake, which is like, really? Yeah, all that time they thought it was real. And then there was a ton of sightings in the 30s. So it's crazy. And a couple in the 50s. There's been sightings throughout the time. Oh, it was 2011 when they found out it was a fake. But prior to 2011, there wasn't a lot of sightings. I do believe in monsters. I do believe that there are creatures out there that we can't explain. So why wouldn't it be true? I do also believe in my own theory that she or he or whatever the Loch Ness gender preference is, we'll say they, may have died, because it seems like they haven't had any sightings for a long time. And so quite possibly maybe in the 30s it was, you know, really active and it was in its heyday, and now it's just not there anymore. A lot of people have taken advantage of the situation. There's a ton of docs out there. I've watched a few. There was this gentleman who literally, like, I was like, wow, that's crazy. He literally left his family and lives in a van down by the river, and he is hunting Loch Ness. I think since the 80s, he's just been like waiting for her. She ain't gonna show up, man. She's probably scared of you. So there's a lot of theories of what a Loch Ness could be. Some people think it's a dinosaur. Some people think it's a big fish. Some people think that it's a trick of the eye, that it could be something totally different, like a flock of birds or sticks or branches that fell in the water, and people are just making a big deal about it. I will tell you this, tourism, okay, I'll get it right, at the Loch Ness is really high because of this monster. I mean, I want to go just, when we're done with the pandemic and we get to some form of normality. I don't think that we'll ever get back to whatever is normal, but anyway, I would like to go to Loch Ness and just look in the water just for fun, like not necessarily expecting anything. I don't think people who do tours to Scotland to Loch Ness are expecting something. I think it's more like, oh, why not? Let's amuse me, you know. I think the story of Loch Ness is very interesting. I find it so fascinating that throughout these years, it's been one thing or another. Messi's been an interesting one. She's, you know, cryptologists are still trying to figure it out. I think she's probably some mutant dinosaur hybrid. She was probably, I don't know if I think she's a dinosaur. I think that, you know, I think all the dinosaurs were extinct when they were extinct. I think she's probably, in my mind, my little alien brain, I think she was probably like a lungfish or some sort of other animal, and maybe the toxins of the water turned her into something. Now that sounds like the plot to The Toxic Avenger. If you've ever seen that movie, it's funny. Some of those scenes are shot in my hometown in Jersey City. So, but like, I think she's just one of these, you know, too much toxic water formed her to something else, a three-eyed fish, you know, kind of thing. You know, speaking of The Simpsons, I do think she existed. I don't think she's around anymore. I don't think, you know, if I took a tour to Scotland and took one of these Loch Ness tours, I don't think I'm going to see her. I really don't think so. I think that her heyday was in the 30s and 40s. And that's when you saw her. But, you know, I'm not from Scotland. I have never been there. So what do I know? I mean, what I'm seeing are stories from Wikipedia and YouTube, you know, real big time cryptologist research. So I don't know necessarily the depth of her legacy, because, like, for example, the chupacabra. As I was doing research on the chupacabra, a lot of these outlets, these information outlets, kept talking about 1995, that's the first time they talked about her and they cited her. But I was damn sure that we talked about the chupacabra a long time ago. And I even asked friends who are also Latino about the story, and they also agreed that she's been around way longer than the 1995 sighting. So, you know, there's more of a story there than we think, you know. It just makes it seem like the first time they saw her was with St. Columba, right? And then something happened in the 1800s, right? And then suddenly it's 1933 and she has all these sightings, and then her sightings are less and less and less and less until about 2007, and then suddenly 2011 we find out that this photo isn't real. Like, so it's not consistent. So there's got to be a bigger story there. If you're Scottish, Scottish descent, and if you know a different story, please leave a comment below. I'd love to know more if there is more to the story. You know, I just think it's an interesting lore. A lot of different cultures have lores like that, like a chupacabra. You know, Nessie has her own story, her own legacy, and I think that's just what it is. It can be a legacy. Maybe she is really real. Maybe I mean, why not? Who knows? a lot of the times when they cover up for these events and these creatures and stuff, it's because they don't want to make, you know, frighten people that these animals possibly can be out there. What people really want to know, is it just a monster that was created here? Is it an alien? It could be an alien too, like alien from another planet. Was it due to like chemicals, like experiments and stuff, like government cover up in that sense, like aliens and cross DNA with aliens, dinosaurs, and chemicals? Who knows? Who knows? But it, you know, it's part of lore, Scottish lore. I'm sure. It seems like it is. So, so yeah, thanks for watching. Go check out the podcast if you haven't. This one and the next one, so you can get caught up. If you don't want to listen to the podcast, don't listen to it. Then just subscribe, like, share with friends. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you've heard of other stories of the Loch Ness. I'd love to know. Have a good one. Until next time.